Hey guys, it's Bina, and in today's video, I want to go over the Frostbite Frostclaw Rune Master. We have pushed over 1,000 waves in the arena, as you'll see here. For rank 1, this one is using Frostclaw to proc LA Nova, and using Cold Fire Cold Invocation to get more damage reduction alongside Flame Ward, and using Flame Rush as our movement ability. So we have 1,000 waves in the arena. I had to stop there, so I could have pushed way past this. We're gonna go over a map right now, and I might actually push a little bit later in the cycle, but for now that's gonna have to do. We're gonna do a quick map to showcase the gameplay. So essentially, because we're applying Frostbite, we're scaling cold damage and we're scaling freeze rate multiplier, because our boots actually give us freeze rate multiplier per cold penetration per 10% freeze rate multiplier. So this is essentially scaling our damage as well as scaling our tankiness all at the same time. So we're about at 700 corruption. Pretty much everything is always frozen. There's nothing that moves except Immortal Eyes, which cannot be frozen or stunned. So obviously things that cannot be CC'd will move. I still permanently freeze all bosses, Shades of Horribus, Tier 4 Julra. You can't kill Tier 4 Julra with her without moving at all. She doesn't even start channeling her very first explosion. Although I am building way more for freeze and not for damage, so you could itemize in a certain way to build for more damage if you wanted to go with elemental damage over time, over freeze rate multiplier, over freeze rate per stack of chill, and you would probably still freeze most things, but I started to focus on a very freeze focused variant, and I felt that it was like really strong. Now, this is me killing Abomination in 557 corruption. As you can see, he cannot move at all. This is what a single target looks like. This is what a bossing looks like. Essentially, it's a walk in the park since you permanently freeze him all the time and he can't do anything, basically. This stays the same upwards of like 1,000 corruption. So long as you have enough freeze rate and enough freeze rate per stack of chill, this is the bossing of the build. So pretty fun build to play for bossing for sure. So this is pretty much how it maps, right? Very easy to do. Essentially, you're spamming Frostclaw. The important thing to note here is that the way we are sustaining our mana with Frostclaw is by having it cost about 25 and under mana, and ideally you want to beat it at like 22 to 21 mana because of this node here. This node says chance to gain 12 mana on cast, and it's a 36% chance. So if you take this chance with 12 mana, and we're getting 5 Frostclaw casts from these nodes at the bottom left here. So you see the first one, second, and third, and then they also cast in reversed. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 casts, each one of them have a chance to generate 12 mana at a 36% chance. That's about like 20, I think it's 21.6. It's 21 point something. So between 21 and 22, you need to be there for your mana cost to be neutral mana. And then the rest is covered by your mana regen, a little bit of luck, right? So a bigger mana pool means that you can have worse luck and still be able to continue casting your Frostclaws. And the higher your mana pool, essentially, the less the chance that you'll go out of mana. In my push up to 100 waves in arena, I was once actually out of mana and had to like either wait a little bit or like have a bit better luck with my cast, and then my mana re-popped back up. But you should really be good at 22 mana, and I've played this build for quite a while at like 25, 26 mana cost, and it did feel good even at 25, 26 mana cost. The way that we're reducing our mana is, first of all, using a -5 spell mana cost scepter. So this one is going to be important to get your mana cost as low as possible. It is not mandatory, but it is needed to sustain your mana cost. So if you don't have a tier 7 -5 spell mana cost scepter, well, use a -4. And if you don't have a -4, then you can use either a -3 or even a wand, because wands have an implicit for minus mana cost at -3 for spells, right? So because Frostclaw is a spell, then you'll be good to go with that. Mana efficiency with Frostclaw on these idols are pretty important as well. As you can see, if I remove these, right, my Frostclaw is now to 28 mana cost. If I use one of these, I'm at 25. 25 is still pretty good to sustain the mana cost, although it's going to be a little bit more difficult and you're a little bit more reliant on RNG, right? But as you can see, you know, like most of the time, if you're mapping, for example, you'll have no problem sustaining your mana cost even at 25. But for Arena, I would really suggest going full efficiency and going as low as possible with 22 mana cost here for Frostbite. I don't know if with perfect rolls you could get it lower, but as you can see, it doesn't really matter because even at 25, you will sustain most of the way, and you can definitely play this with a higher mana cost than 22. So the way we're doing this is with these idols, with our scepter, with this node here for minus mana cost, and this node here for minus 3 mana cost. Why are these so important? It's because we're grabbing this node, which gives us all of our projectiles the chance to hit the same target. So these will all shotgun, but they increase your mana cost by 90%. And then we're going to the down left here with On Through the Snow and the future nodes ever onwards and a Crack in the Ice. So basically what this does, this is what gives us all of these casts here. The 3 in front of us and then the 2 backwards, right? So that's 5 casts total, but these also increase the mana cost quite a bit, right? Plus 6, plus 6, plus 40. So all of this combination makes it good enough to be able to sustain a 22 mana cost with this node here. So that is the main interaction for the mana. We are grabbing this node here in Rare Wind's Veil to get ward per 40% freeze rate multiplier. And since we're scaling freeze rate multiplier, we're getting a lot of ward from this node. So like this is not our only source of ward generation, but as you can see, right, I am getting a lot of ward from spamming Frostclaw alongside all of my other sources, which are Braywind's Frostguard, which gives us a burst of ward, also damage reduction, and this scales with intelligence, and it gives us freeze rate multiplier, which does apply to the snowdrifts to give us cold penetration with Frostbite per 10% freeze rate multi. So I'm focusing fully on freeze rate multi to be able to like kill monsters without them moving at all. I love Frostbite builds because of this, and snowdrifts makes Frostbite one of, if not the very best element in the game, because you're scaling both defense and offense. These also get cold penetration, which other elements have difficulty obtaining, and then in combination with Frostbite Shackle, you gain ward gain on freeze as well, ward retention per uncapped cold res, you get freeze rate multiplier, Frostbite duration, and a chance to apply Frostbite on hit. And one thing that you might notice here is that I have Armor Shred on hit. Armor Shred is converted to Frostbite in our Rune Master passive, Freezing Point. Your Armor Shred chance is converted to Frostbite chance for cold spells. So, this is a cold spell. Elemental Nova is procced off of Frostclaw with the node up the top here, Celestial Conflux. 42% chance, so we do proc it quite a bit. And then what we're doing with our Nova is that we are speccing into the mana cost here and cold damage taken. So this makes it able for it to cost 0 mana, but we take a bit more cold damage. It is very important for LA Nova to have a mana cost of 0 if you plan on proccing it off of Celestial Conflux, right? So even if it has a cost of 1 mana, you will go mana negative and you will not be able to sustain your mana with a Gift of Winter. So what you're trying to do here is with the Scepter, depending on your current setup, you might need to remove some points from Glacial Might. So these points here, right, this one in Freezing Cascade and the 3 in Glacial Might, you actually don't need them for the build to function. And if you don't have the minus mana cost Scepter, feel free to remove these for LA Nova to cost 0 mana. It's very, very, very important. At the same time, if you want an even bigger AoE, or if you don't have all of the points in Crest of Unity like I have here, I only have a +3 Crest of Unity, you could remove these points and invest more points into Elemental Expanse to have an even larger area of effect and have an even bigger LA Nova for even better defense because you're freezing more and you're hitting more monsters in a wider area, so nothing will actually move while you're mapping or during arena or stuff like that. This is a change that I did do for arena. I removed these nodes and I put everything into the area to be able to hit monsters in as big as an area as possible, so that I'm sure that nothing actually moves. So this pretty much covers LA Nova and Frostclaw. In Runic Invocation, you're using Runic Invocation with Immutable Order. This node gives it the guaranteed chance of accumulating runes based on the order of your skills on your action bar. So because I have a cold, a fire, and a cold skill Flame Rush is converted to cold via branding of cold. This makes us able to summon Ruin's Frost Guard all the time, which is an insane defensive buff, right? So how do we use this? So it guarantees this specific invocation all the time. So all you have to do is hold Runic Invocation and go through the map and do as you please, kill the monsters, and once this goes off cooldown, your runes will already be ready, and so by holding it, you will automatically use it again. This gives you a burst of ward, defensive buffs, and blah blah blah, at 30% less damage taken, so it's a very, very good defensively. Our second defensive skill is going to be Flame Ward. So, oh yeah, so the rest of the nodes and Runic Invocation, they don't really matter. I mean, we're grabbing whatever we can to help us with the build, but this is the main one. We're getting some cooldown here, a little bit of cast speed there, chance to double cast with these points here, and then the last point is in Rune Slinger for a little bit more cast speed when using Runic Invocation, so we have like a little bit less frames that we stop for when we're casting Cold Fire Cold. But the only super important point is going to be Immutable Order. The rest is pretty much whatever you want. Then we have into Flame Ward, which is our second defensive ability, which gives us a nice 30% less damage taken to you by hits. This is the most important part. So you activate it on demand to take way less damage. It has a 30% less damage from hits inherently. You get a 40% less hit damage here, 30% less LA damage there, and then you get a second charge here. Duration, so more duration equals more time that we have to buff, and then some mana efficiency to be able to sustain Frostclaw even further, because, you know, this does have a mana cost, and then to be like mana neutral, we're at like 21, 22 Frostclaw mana cost, so that anything that costs mana is essentially bad for us. One nice thing is that Runic Invocation will cost 0 mana because we are using Author of Arcana, which gives us a mana refund on our Runic Invocation. So no mana cost here, so it's pretty nice. So Flame Ward used as a defensive with multiple charges. And then we finally have Flame Rush, which is our movement ability, which we are speccing into, like, basically there's nothing crazy going on in Flame Rush. We're getting mana efficiency here, more DR, like less damage taken, doubled against dots. Flame Rush also inherently makes you take less damage during it, so use this to your advantage. Celestial Guidance, which makes it persist after Flame Rush, but this is essentially fluff and you don't really need it because, like, the amount of time it stays on, like, you barely even have the time to see the buff staying on your bar here before it disappears. So while it's nice to have, it's like, I feel like there's very low value to this. Even then, there's low value to anything else that you would grab, so we're grabbing it anyways. Ward after getting it, we're getting Frenzy after exiting, so quite nice to be able to get the, you know, the extra cast speed afterwards. And then we're mainly going into Branding Cold, so going through a monster with Flame Rush will apply a brand, and a brand is important because we're grabbing these points here in Celestial Doom to get ward gain versus branded bosses. So you go through the boss, and then all of these hits from your Frostclaw will give you an insane amount of ward. So this is pretty nice for that. And it also makes it cold, so we're doing Cold Fire Cold, right? So that pretty much covers it. We get more speed and range, and then we get a Fire Shred stack, which is translated to a Cold Shred because we are converting it to cold. So that pretty much covers Flame Rush. So this is the setup for the skills. In terms of gear, I have a pretty decent setup here with, you know, Frozen Ire with LP. All of my stuff basically have like very nice LP slammed into it. So Freeze Rate Multi, Freeze Rate Multi, Freeze Rate Multi, Armor Shred on the gloves. I have like Tier 7 movement speed on the boots. I have +2 to Frostclaw on Twisted Heart. You don't need more than +2 to Frostclaw to play this build efficiently. The 2 points are nice to get this and to get maxed out Celestial Conflux. You could go without one or the other. If you want to play more defensively, you could put your first points into here and then only 1 point into the LA Nova proc. Or if you want to have more damage and more coverage, you could put more the 3 points into Celestial Conflux and then the last point into Freeze Rate Multi here. So this is the most important thing. If you get a +4, I would put the points into Arthur's Scepter to get even more damage and Frostbite chance with Frostclaw, and this more damage will apply to the Frostbite. So the Frostbites will actually get benefits from the more damage multiplier. So that is what I would do with this. but essentially refer to the gearing section in the Maxwell Planner, which I'll have linked down below. And yeah, I'm using the Cuckoo. I want to talk about this a little bit. Cuckoo is actually pretty nice because we don't have a good source of haste on this build. So Cuckoo not only gives us haste, but also increased effect of haste. So it's actually giving us more than 30% movement speed. As you can see, I'm at 45 base, but then after I use this, I'm at 92% movement speed, right? So the rest of my idols are Frostbite Duration and increased armor and mana. So these are pretty nice as well because Frostbite Duration actually scales your damage. Although it takes a little bit of time before it does, it's essentially one of the better multipliers because you have very little source of Frostbite Duration except for Frostbite Shackles. So let's go into the build guide right now and see what it's all about. So we are here on the Maxwell build guide. I'll go into the keyring sections. So the starter, advanced, endgame, and aspirational gear. Starting gear essentially only yellows, right? You have like really nice milestone. You can go over this. You can read through this. The Strand of Souls belt is very, very good at giving you a lot of ward and ward on kill. So it has a lot of ward synergies. Mana spent again as ward. We are spending quite a bit of mana on this, so this is not, you know, the 180% mana spent again as ward is pretty nice. But if you mainly use this for the ward gain on kill, it's going to give you so much tankiness while mapping. You will notice this immediately. Even with no LP, I would highly recommend going Strand of Souls. Ocearon. Oh, so I need to talk about freeze rate per stack of chill. Freeze works in a couple different ways. You have your base freeze rate for your ability, right? Which can be like a flat value. Let's take, for example, 100. And then it's multiplied, that base freeze rate is multiplied by your freeze rate per stack of chill. Chill stacks up to 3 times. So this actually multiplies your base freeze rate, making it bigger, and then is multiplied by your freeze rate multiplier that you can get, for example, on your amulet, right? Plus 211% freeze rate multiplier. This is essential to understand if you want to be able to freeze monster and permanently freeze them, and understand how you can scale your freeze rate even higher to permanently freeze bosses and, you know, Shade of Orbis and Tier 4 Jilra and all these kind of bosses, right? So you go through the milestones here. Ocearon is excellent at this, you know, has up to 200% freeze rate per stack of chill. The endgame setup has a tier 7 -5 spell mana cost scepter, uses the Cuckoo to get haste, and then the aspirational gear has the haste on the boots, actually, because you have more LP. This is absolutely aspirational gear. I would suggest aiming for the endgame gear, but if you want to go like crazy, you can go with this setup, with the Snowdrift with the haste here, and then you use the Vial of Volta Ice with 4 LP to get crazy stats. It also has chance to apply Frostbite on cold hit, cold increase area for area skills, alongside your Crest of Unity. This will also increase the area of your LA Nova, cold damage, freeze rate multi. It's just like all good stats, and an implicit of 6 intelligence, which is useful to us. We're also using Frozen Eye of Formosus for like even more freeze rate per stack of chill. So we have freeze rate per stack of chill pretty much everywhere, on the helm, on the chest, on the rings, on the amulet. It's getting pretty crazy. So for our blessings here, we are grabbing Void Res, we're getting freeze rate multi, Poison Res, chance to apply Frostbite on hit. On this one, if you want to get even crazier with a freeze, you could go with freeze rate per stack of chill, but you would lose this 100% free, chance to apply Frostbite on hit. And then our last blessing is armor. So yeah, this is like really, I feel like this is like such a nice build. Super defensive while keeping a good amount of damage. While with this setup, it's not the absolute top damage, because this setup is concentrating on getting as much freeze rate as possible. Like you could itemize a little bit differently, and instead of going for, you know, tier 7 freeze rate multi, you go for tier 7 LE damage over time, and you would get a lot more damage out of that. But that is a decision that you will have to take. I decided to go with the freeze rate because I wanted to freeze things 100% of the time. I have tested this with my current setup in game. I don't freeze shades of like 1700s, like 1700 corruption. I don't freeze them permanently, but then again, we do have snap freeze for this. In that situation, snap freeze is useful to freeze Orbis or Shade of Orbis for like 2 seconds, right? Or as you get higher and higher in corruption, maybe there's a level in a couple thousands of corruption where you might not freeze a boss, but you know, it is part of the game. So let's go over to passives now. So in terms of passives, in the base mage class, we have intelligence. We're grabbing 1 point here, 1 point here, just to get access to the increased cast speed. Here is what we care about. And then we also get the freeze rate multiplier in Rune of Winter. Arguably, you could put points into Warden, right, whether or not you want more freeze or more ward retention. In the Rune Master tree, so there's a lot of good nodes here to take. Since we're getting so much ward, I did not take all the points in Sphere of Protection because I felt like freezing everything and, you know, freezing everything and having good damage and having like so much ward, we don't need that many more sources of less damage taken that we already have, since we already have so many. So that's why I only put 3 points here. We are grabbing the increased cast speed, the intelligence, and ward on direct spell cast. So lots of ward synergies, ward here. We're getting intelligence and bonus damage taken from crits with a catalyst. Since we're using a catalyst, we're getting minus 48% here, and the rest of it is on our body armor and a sealed affix on our, where is it? On our helmet, right? So this caps us at 100% less bonus damage taken from crits. The best in slot aspirational gear version does not have capped, but is using Crest of Unity to get 18% less damage taken from ignited shock or chilled enemies, and that compensates for the more damage that you will take from those crits in that situation, only when you're a crit, right? So we're going here, we are going for the ward retention with a scepter. We are grabbing the conversion from armor shred to frostbite chance for our cold spells. We're grabbing the cast speed and movement speed after using a traversal skill for 4 seconds, which is pretty nice. More damage to bosses and rare, and the effect is always doubled because we have the cold fire cold invocation. So this is essentially 16% more damage. 8 point in int. Int is very important because it also scales your ward retention at 4% per point. So this is going to be very, very good. And you also get cooldown recovery per 4 int, so you're getting some cooldown off of this. And Celestial Doom to get the ward versus branded bosses, which we apply a brand with Flame Rush. In the Sorcerer tree, we are grabbing the cast speed, we're grabbing movement speed, we go with Calculate Destruction for the intelligence it's giving us. It's also giving us Spell Critical Strike Chance, which we don't care too much about, except if you go in Arena and use Jagged Veil, but that is like only like a very specific thing for Arena. But Jagged Veil is nice for the intelligence, again giving us ward retention and damage to our Frostclaw. And then Chill to the Bone, 1 point here to benefit from Twisted Heart of Eucharos, which needs a source of Leech to be able to restore your health, to be able to get 8% of your current health converted to ward when you directly cast a elemental spell, right? So that is the reason we go here, and no points into Spellblade. Arguably, if you have low LA res, you could spec a couple of points into Elemental Affinity to cap your LA res before you get, like, you know, the perfect gear and the perfect setup. So that pretty much covers the build. I hope you love it. It's absolutely amazing. I think it's one of the best builds in the entire game overall in terms of general DPS, CC, quality of life, tankiness. Everything about it just feels absolutely amazing. And you can also level up with Frostclaw, which is amazing. If you have any questions, feel free to hop by my Discord, by my Twitch channel, or post in the comments below, and I'll try to answer all of you guys as best as I can. The best place to reach me is on my Twitch channel from 9 to 4 Eastern Time, where if you have like a very specific question you want answered about a specific question, whether it is in this guide or in Last Epoch in general, I'll be happy to answer you guys. And I try to answer every single question that it pops up in my Twitch chat. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. I hope you liked the build. It's insane. It just permanently freezes anything in the game, and I hope you love it. I'll see you guys all in the next video.